we are going to change landscape. Everything we do in our life is to prepare for the future. But one of the main future features we have is the youngsters, the one that will take the wave even further. And this event today couldn't be successful without introducing two young guys that works for a company that is really disrupting the ICO landscape, which will be introducing another company that disrupt this time, not the ICO landscape, but the blockchain landscape. So let's start first with the ICO, and let me introduce you to our two young guys, Jeremy and Thomas. Please, the stage is yours.
Cool. Thank you very much for the opportunity of being here. We are super excited to be here today as well with Jeremy. So I'm Thomas, CHAINEUM's project manager, and here is Jeremy, our CTO. So you probably heard today with all those different speakers, like the true power of the blockchain technology and the total disruption that it is going to bring to our society through new usages. One of the topic that we are going to talk about today, right now, is the ICO. CHAINEUM is the first ICO boutique in Europe that is working under self-regulation. We are working with best practices that are specified into the ICO charter, which is co-signed by, among 6 other signatories initially, CHAINEUM. And we are now, as of today, about 20 signatories. CHAINEUM is based in Paris, London, Montreal, and as well Singapore. So we are really targeting a worldwide market. We are running successful ICOs since mid-2017 with the success story of Tomb Raider, and we overreached the target of $40 million. Please go on. So before going any further into the presentation, we first would like to give you a few disclaimers. First of all, as said previously, we are targeting the European, the Asian, and Canadian market. So we are unfortunately not able, as of today, to open it to US investors, but we are strongly working on resolving this issue. The other disclaimer is that we are working under the French regulation. Please go on. So, among other services, CHAINEUM is providing an end-to-end solution to our clients. So it starts with 6 complementary services that are explained here. So it starts with the ISO concept and strategy. It is where we are going to help companies to write their white paper and like to give more advices. Then we move on to the legal framework because it is something super important to get the right tone, the right message for the marketing and the promotion services. The next one is, the promotion and the marketing, which is something super important because an ICO, it is, before everything, a commercial operation. CHAINEUM is as well providing to its clients a huge range of advisors and partnerships. I will now let our CTO explain to you the 2 other services.
One of the main points we're working on is the technical aspects, because basically when you're doing an ICO, you're creating something of our technology, and to create something of our technology, we must choose the right technology. So we help build the smart contracts, choose the platform, making the payments go correctly over the blockchain. And we also help the project to choose the platform they will build their token upon. And we design and make the architecture of the projects themselves after the ICO is done to help people leverage the power of the token they just created and released. We also work with ICO Trust Label, which is made by Exegis, which is a notation agency that rank ICOs based on financial risks and technological risks that can give you good advices about if the ICO is good place, if this ICO is a good place to invest or not. I'll let Thomas continue.
Thank you, Jeremy. So here is an understanding of the pipe that we have right now. So currently we are working on, so it's written here 13, but we have like one which is already successful, but we are working on 12 other ones, ICOs that are on the pipe for a cumulative amount of approximately 1.15 billion US dollars. So we do have some technical, societal disruptions provided by those projects that are super interesting. So I'm going to here explain, well, give you some quick numbers about the success story Dumb Raider. So we did this ICO for a few months, and we managed to raise about 40 million US dollars, which was an overreached target. Out of those, there were 1,300,000,000 Dumb Raider tokens that were issued. So Dumb Raider, as well, as Jeremy was saying, got a notation from the Exegis company, the ICO Tracks label, that you can actually read onto their website. Now, let's move on to these new use cases that we are currently working on, and this is presenting as well their project here, which is Money by Design, and we truly believe that this is one of our most biggest groundbreaking projects. And you are going to learn a little bit more, even a lot more of this project after this presentation. And of course, if you have any questions about the ISO process or our services, please come and talk to us, and we will be able to, and glad as well, to answer to all your questions. Thank you.
So that's also one of the remit of the CCE, is to help and push forward these startups and these youngsters into the big world. As you can say, raising $40 million in 2 months, there is no IPO that does that. There isn't any, because it will take minimum a year to a year and a half to do the roadshow and to comply with all the regulatory matters. Thanks God, one of the most attractive territories, and again, I'm looking at Gilles to really take this on him, it's the French regulatory framework helps to create a new wave of startups. So let's introduce now. Si, c'est celui-là. C'est pas celui-là. Sorry. I'll get it back. Good. So Pascal, if you understand the mix we've done, so you have a boutique raising funds for the ICO of a blockchain, which is the underlying project that needs the funds. And this project is quite disruptive within the scope of the blockchain. I hope I've been clear, but Pascal will clear even further.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody, and thank you, Gilbert, for the invitation to this wonderful presentation. My name is Pascal Rusica. I'm the CEO of a startup called Boxcracy, and we are dealing with two main projects. The first main project is a highly disruptive decision-making tool called Chooser, and the other project I'm going to talk about now is called Money by Design, and this is a blockchain project, and this is an example of how blockchain can change our behaviors and potentially can change the world. So first statement, institutions and business and blockchain belong to two worlds that everything opposes today. For instance, institutions blame blockchain for its lack of transparency, its lack of control, and its unstructured environment, whereas the blockchain blames the institution for their lack of intelligence, their over-regulation, and their slowness. Next to this statement, and Gilbert talked about it in his introduction, classic financing faces limitations. If you want to create or to develop an activity, a startup for instance, you have 4 choices to do that. The first thing is you can reinvest the profits coming from the sales. But this is only dedicated to market economy. So what about non-market economy? The second one is you can ask for fundraising. So VCs, business angel, etc. But this implies to you to accept to share your power, which is not something really relevant sometimes. Or you can go to the bank and ask for a credit and then increase your debt with interest. And finally, you can go for crowdfunding, but with limited ambition. So what can blockchain bring to these limitations? Well, let me show you. The concept we created, we invented, is called smart tokenization. And Money by Design aims to be the first smart tokenization blockchain in the world. So the question is, what is smart tokenization? Well, this is the use of the blockchain technology to monetize an asset, whether material or immaterial assets. And by the way, by this way, the aim is to turn the authenticated assets into money. How can we do that? We do that thanks to our token and our decentralized architecture. So basically, what's the job of the Money by Design project is to create unique cryptocurrencies that represent the authenticate value of any asset. And this is how we make money. This is how we make business. What about the token? The token is quite disruptive because this is the first one that directly integrates features and services. Features and services are a number of 7. 3 are dedicated to consumers, and 4 are said to be expert and dedicated to businesses. The first feature for consumer is basically that they will be able to save money and to manage their wallet with an unlimited number of cryptocurrencies and fiat. Fiat means sovereign currencies. The second feature is that they will be able to use the token as a means of payment, which is roughly basic. And the third feature for consumers is that we integrate a function of governance inside the token to enable the user to vote and to participate through the community decision. And this is quite disruptive in the blockchain. The 4th other features are dedicated to businesses, and the first one is that they will be able to change the scales of their transaction, and this way they can secure their wallets. If you want to work with many decimals after the 0, it will be possible. 8, 9, 10, a number you want. The 5th, the 5th feature is that they will be able to produce, that is to authenticate and to evaluate the assets. They will be able to market and to create a new model of exchanges, a new model of investment, and for instance, circular investment and circular model of exchange. And finally, thanks to the token, they will be able to monitor, that is to frame and to rule their socio-economic relations. So this is what we call an augmented currency, which leads to greater benefits for all the users, consumer and businesses and institutions as well. What about the architecture? Blockchain is known to be the distributed architecture, and this is how we say this is something out of control, totally out of control. Whereas the classic digital tools are more regulated, but are definitely centralized. So our architecture is defined as a hybrid between the two, and is defined as a decentralized architecture. What does it mean? It means that we put the policy stratum on top of the architecture in order for the higher nodes and for the nodes of authority to regulate and to control the transactions that will take place on the blockchain. This prevents from money laundering and fraud. And this is the main reason why institutions and business want to come into the blockchain. This is something they require highly and positively. Thanks to that, we introduce what we call an amend function that will enable to correct by itself all the errors that will take place on the blockchain. And we introduce as well what we call the proof of authority. And this proof of authority leads to the end of classical mining, which use a lot of power and which is very expensive. So with this model, with this architecture, you have both an ecologic impact, positive impact on ecologic and environment, and positive impact on transparency. KYC means know your customer, and compliance, of course, transparency. Finally, what about the value of the token, which is probably one of your question. Bitcoin and Ethereum and other cryptocurrencies are known to be very speculative tools, which is not our ambition, of course. The value of the token will be what we call a value of usage, thanks to the introduction of the features and services. And this value is calculated on both things. The first thing is its economic value, based on the features and the valuation of the services we embed inside the currency. And the second one is its social value. What is the social value? The social value is basically the number of users of the token. And this value is calculated from a formula, a mathematical formula called the Metcalfe's law, which means that the more users, the higher the value. This is kind of a predictive valuation of the token. That means that we are able to tell to any investors, any token holder, how much he could get on return, depending on the number of the users on the blockchain. And this is something very disruptive. And this leads to what we call a dynamic currency. So finally, the Geo token will be the first augmented dynamic currency in the blockchain and in the world. And this fourth element brings secured investments. As a conclusion, because I see Gilbert coming right to me, as a conclusion, I should say that Gutenberg gave the capability to print books. Blockchain gives the capability to print token. Smart tokenization will be the emergence of an infinity economic thinkings and use. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much again. An amazing presentation. I'm sure a couple of you might not have catched completely the whole picture, the whole features. But let's make it a bet. These guys are looking for $300 million. Next year, we'll be here, and we'll hear about them and how much they have achieved on this goal of 300. Remember the first case presented by CHAINEUM, they were looking for $30 million, and they raised $54 million in 2 months. The purpose of this presentation was to trigger your interest. If there is any investor that wants to get into the first round of private investment, you are more than welcome to talk to these two guys. Okay, it's the time to do it, because in the next 2 months, it will be too late. Cheers.